Hey beer tubers, welcome back to another episode of San Diego Beer Vlog. Thanks for joining me once again. I'm going to look at my first BrewDog beer. Finally got a BrewDog beer to review on my channel. So this is something a little different though. Something I haven't come across. And that is their Storm. Now Storm is a bit different than most other IPAs for that matter. It's 8% beer. They say it's a malt beverage aged in Islay Scotch whiskey barrels, which if you've talked to me a little bit, you know that I'm a big fan of Islay whiskeys. They're the peated whiskeys that usually have a lot of, you know, that smoky kind of earthy peat character to them. So they took their I.P.A, which I guess they're hopping with some New Zealand hops, and aged it in some Scotch barrels. So we'll see how this goes. I've had a few kind of barrel aged IPAs and they're always kind of interesting. Wow, that cap was not on there very tight, unfortunately. Hopefully we get some carbonation. No carbonation. Well, barely any. I think I've heard about their having some issues with their caps, but this is batch 13, best before 2/2/12. So we'll see what we get. Oh, there's some carbonation, not much of a head. The cap was not on there very tight at all, but thankfully there's some carbonation. So I've had this a little while and I finally got to it, so I'm not expecting like massive bitterness and intense hops, but I'm really curious to see how this is gonna go. I don't know if it was bottle conditioned or not, but it has a very kind of dingy orange color. I can't see through the other side, not clear at all. Very modest carbonation, not much of a head on there. Let's get the aroma on it. Oh yeah, you can definitely smell the whiskey right away, the whiskey barrels. Yeah, peat, definitely peat, like reminds me of like Ardbeg. If you've had Ardbeg single malt, reminds me of that on the aroma. Sort of that, I don't know how to describe peat unless you've had it, but it's like this earthy sort of smokiness from this moss that they dry out and they smoke malts with. So you get that. A little bit of a sweetness coming through, like some very minute sweet kind of hop notes, kind of like maybe a sweet orange or something, but the nose is really dominated by the peated malt aspect of the beer. Yeah, maybe just a touch of alcohol. I like the nose. I love that type of Scotch. So let's give this a try. Cheers. That's really different. You get a lot of up front. I don't know if it's the age of the beer or the recipe that they put into it, but it's kind of like this pale ale kind of esque character up front. Mostly malty, some hops, but then boom, the back end's just huge peat notes. Something that you'd expect on like a Scotch ale or a barley wine or a stout, and they do a stout aged in Scotch whiskey barrels. But this type of beer, India Pale Ale, kind of interesting. So yeah, I haven't had anything like this, so I don't know how I'm going to be able to grade it, and yeah, it's a bit confusing on the palate for sure. So up front there's a little bit of sweetness, slight hops, sweet hops. I mean, nothing a whole lot I can comprehend, like what exactly kind of kiwi hops, like maybe slightly sweet orange, slightly kind of lemony, but not a whole lot of hops really, to be honest. I don't know how well an IPA can hold up to these Scotch barrels, because the Scotch barrel is definitely dominating this beer. Except for the fact that I like that character on the beer. Just wish there's more of a balance between the two aspects. A little bit of a lingering bitterness on there, not overly powering. You know, nothing like a fresh IPA. but man, that peat on the back end. You even get like almost a saltiness. A lot of peated Scotch whiskeys from Islay will have this saltiness because they're right by the ocean, and they'll kind of fuse into the cask. So you get like on the back end, you kind of get a slight bitterness and a saltiness. It'll go along with that kind of smoky peat note, earthy peat notes. So hard to say with this beer. I kind of enjoy it. I'm probably just gonna go B- because it's just slightly above average. I don't know if it's maybe the cap was loose or they're all like that, but I mean, I want a little more carbonation. It's okay with low carbonation like it is. At least it is carbonated, so I'm happy with that. But yeah, I want a bigger IPA, fresher IPA to kind of match up with those peat notes, which is hard to do because you got to age it in those barrels to get those notes. So I'm gonna go B- with Storm from BrewDog. Pretty interesting beer. So maybe check it out if you're into single malt peated Scotch whiskeys. Worth checking out if you also like some IPAs, but don't expect like too much of an IPA character on it. So that's gonna wrap up this review. Until next time, please comment, subscribe. Cheers.